You're reading the Perennial Philosophy, and it talks about where we were, about perfume and due to memory. The Sufi says Maulana Rumi is the son of time, present. Spiritual progress is a spiral advance. We start as infants in the animal eternity of life in the moment without anxiety for the future or regret for the past. We grow up into specifically human condition of those who look before and after, who live to a great extent, not in the present, but in memory and anticipation. Not spontaneously, but by rule and prudence, in repentance and fear and open, we can continue, if we so desire, up to and on in a returning sweep towards a point corresponding to our starting place in animality, but incommensurably above it. Once more, life is lived in the moment, the life now, not of a subhuman creature, but of a being of whom charity has cast out fear. Vision has taken the place of hope. Selflessness has put a stop to positive egotism of complacent reminiscence, and negative egotism of remorse. The present moment is the only aperture through which the soul can pass out of time into eternity. The present moment is the only aperture through which the soul can pass out of time into eternity, through which grace can pass out of eternity into the soul, and through which charity can pass from one soul into another soul in time. That is why the Sufi, and along with him every other participating exponent of perennial philosophy, is, or tries to be, a son of present time. Past and future veil God from our sight. Burn up both of them with fire. How long wilt thou be partitioned from these segments? Like a reed, so long as a reed is partitioned, it is not privy to secrets, nor is it vocal in response to lip and breathing. Rumi. This emptying of the memory through the advantages, it are not so great as those of the state of union, yet merely because it delivers souls from much sorrow, grief, and sadness. Besides imperfections and sins, is in reality a great good. St. John of the Cross. In the idealistic cosmology of Mahayana Buddhism, memory plays the part of a rather maleficent demiurge. Quote, when the triple world is surveyed by the Bodhisattva, he perceives that its existence is due to memory that has been accumulated since the beginningless past, but wrongly interpreted. Lankavatara Sutra. The word here translated as memory means literally perfuming. The mind body carried with it the irreticable smell. That's the smell of memory, of all that has been thought and done, desired and felt throughout its racial and personal past. The Chinese translate the Sanskrit term by two symbols signifying habit energy. It's just a habit. Is the memory just a habit? The world is what, in our eyes, it is because of all the consciously or unconsciously and physiologically remembered habits. formed by our ancestors or by ourselves, either in our present life or in previous existences. These remembered bad habits cause us to believe that multiplicity is the sole reality, and that the idea of I, me, mine, it's all mine, only mine, represents the ultimate truth. Nirvana consists in seeing into the abode of reality as it is, and not reality quod nos as it seems to us. Obviously, this cannot be achieved so long as there is an us, to which reality can be relative. Hence the needs thrust by every proponent of the perennial philosophy for mortification, for dying to self. This must be a mortification not only of the appetites, the feelings, and the will, but also of the reasoning powers of consciousness itself, and that which makes our consciousness what it is, our personal memory and our inherited habited energies. To achieve complete deliverance, conversion from sin is not enough. There must also be a conversion of the mind, a para-vritti, as the Mahayanas call it, or revulsion in the very depths of consciousness. As a result of this revulsion, the habit energies of the accumulated memory are destroyed, and along with them, the sense of being a separate ego. Reality is no longer perceived quod nous, for the good reason that there is no longer a nous to perceive it. But as it is in itself, in Blake's words, quote, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would be seen as it is, infinite. By those who are pure in heart, pure in spirit, poor in spirit, samsara and nirvana appear. Hence in reality, time and eternity are experienced as one and the same. Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time, and not only time, but temporalities, not only temporal things, but temporal affections, but not only temporal affections, but the very taint and smell of time. We're reading about how memory is like a perfume. Its smell of time from Mahayana Buddhism, from the Lankavatara Sutra. And then it says smell of time as quoted from Eckhart, who's a European mystic. So he shows an overlapping concept, I guess. He's marshalling ideas from comparative religion. Rejoice in God all the time. All the time. Rejoice in God all the time, says St. Paul. He rejoices all the time, who rejoices above time and free from time. These things prevent a man from knowing, three things prevent a man from knowing God. The first is time. The second is corporeality. The third is multiplicity, that God may come in. These things must go out, except those have them in a higher, better way, multitude summed up to one in thee. Eckhart. This is the concept of, we're reading from Time and Eternity. This is the chapter number 12, where we had encountered Boethius and Time and Eternity. We read from Rumi, We got everybody included here. Rumi spoke. Page 187. We talked about Rumi. Then Rumi talked. Then St. John of the Cross talked. And then Eckhart talked. And we said you had to be in the present moment. And their memories were like something that is the smell of time. We're reading from the most needed book in the world, a masterpiece, New York Times. The Perennial Philosophy by Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World.